I've got a great phrase, I think, anyway. The price of independence is performance.
Yes. Every person has got superpowers and they've got blind spots.
Right.
What do you think yours are?
Crikey.
So Kevin, thank you so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to come and have a conversation with me today.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. So the first time that we met was actually at Wembley, wasn't it?
It was. One of those many cup finals we've attended over the years. Probably more sweet, I think.
Yep.
We were quaffing champagne and whatever. Your lovely son, whose name escapes me, was there, and we had a great afternoon, didn't we?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic, and it seems like sort of coincidental timing, because the day that we're recording this is the day after England have just beaten Croatia 4-2.
Exciting evening. Yeah.
That's it. So I feel like we should record two different potential endings to this. One where England win the World Cup when this is released, and one where they don't. I think it's probably fairly safe to say that they're not going to win.
Well, you never know. I'll go and get the scarf out of the car.
Great. So Kevin, it would be fair to say you've had like a long and varied career.
Yes, indeedy.
And so do you want to just tell us about what you're up to now and sort of how you got there?
Absolutely. Well, I'll try not to bore you too much. I've just gone past my 40th anniversary in the estate agency. I know it's hard to believe. So, short version, I guess. Born and bred in Cheltenham, went to university in Bristol, got an economics and politics degree in the sort of early mid-80s.
2-1?
2-1. Yeah, you spotted it on LinkedIn. Yeah, I thought I'd mention that. Then it was a time, for those of you that weren't around, which is probably most actually, where it's a bit like today. It was graduate employment was really difficult. There were 3.5 million people unemployed. Thatcher had sort of taken the country to the cleaners a little bit, depending on which side of the fence you're sitting. So kind of almost because I ran out of options, I went and joined Coopers & Lybrand, accountancy firm, and started a career in accountancy. Coopers & Lybrand are now PwC, actually, for those of you who kind of look out for these sorts of things. But it wasn't for me. I just thought, degree. I've had a degree, I've done exams, done A-levels, all the other stuff, and then here I go on more exams. So I kind of thought, well, I'll need to do something else temporarily. Yeah. My parents were none too chuffed. So I thought I'll get a temporary job. And I went to a sort of recruitment fair in Bristol and met a guy called Michael Robson.
Right.
And Michael Robson at the time was an area manager for Andrews, still going, charity-based, etc., etc. Super interested in what he had to say and whatever. So he said, well, come and join us, in our Bath office and see how you go. So I joined as a trainee negotiator. Within 2 years, I was running the branch in George Street, Bath. We then became the flagship office for the company.
Yeah.
So this is kind of late 80s. We then hit a massive recession. I think my mortgage payments were something like 15.4% interest rates.
Wow.
So that was
this when Double Myrus was removed?
Double Myrus was removed in 88, and then we kind of went into a little bit of a downward spiral. So I thought, I need to earn more money. An area manager job came up in Surrey. So I applied for that with Andrews and got that role, and moved up there with my wife and young daughter at the time.
Yeah.
Had some great years up in Surrey with Andrews. Then short version, joined the Halifax, who had an estate agency operation. Moved then to be based in Sunningdale. Had a great time with them, but they became increasingly sort of corporate. And I remember thinking, we're just losing the estate agency bit here. It was all about financial services and lending, which you'd obviously expect being owned by the Halifax. And I remember being invited to a course which was designing a banking hall, and I thought, actually, this has gone too far now. At that time, the Woolwich Property Services had been bought by Spicer McColl / Hart. So I joined them in 1999 and had 15 enjoyable years, some ups and downs along the way. Parted company with them in 2015. I think it was. And then I thought I'd do something else. I was Group MD at Spicer Hart and Divisional Director. That's all this sort of stuff. So I thought I'd do something completely different. Leaders who were in a lettings business were looking to start an estate agency side.
Yeah.
So I went and met a guy called Paul Weller, who isn't in the jam. Well, I don't think he is. Had a great conversation with him. I mean, I think they had about 65, 70 branches at the time. Wanted to open up sales across that network, which we did very rapidly. In fact, I remember when we got to £1 million pipeline. That was a super exciting milestone. Leaders were owned by a private equity company called Beaumark, or they were the major investors. Beaumark also owned Romans, which is a strong estate agency business in Thames Valley and kind of down through Hampshire, etc. So we merged in 2016. Fast forward. I then became head of sales across the whole business.
When did that happen?
That happened 2018.
Yep.
So I've been in the role that I am for 8 years, which has been a super exciting journey. We've grown both organically and through acquisition. We now have got over 300 offices. The pipeline now is 37 million, as against 1 million. So it's come quite a long way. Not all down to me, I'm facing to add. Some fantastic acquisitions along the way. And what we've now got is 21, 22 brands in the high street. And, we're a powerhouse, I guess, in terms of estate agency. Having said that, lettings is the biggest part of our business. So if you look at the group, we are about 25, 27% sales, 70% lettings, and then 3 or 4% in sort of the other services that we offer. Pause for breath. How does that sound?
That sounds like an incredibly rich and fulfilling career. Can I rewind right back to the beginning?
Yes, of course.
And so when you joined Andrews, and one of the other guests that I've had on is David Powell, the CEO of Andrews. How old were you when you became a branch manager?
Great question. 26.
26.
Yeah.
And what do you think the average age of a branch manager is in the Leaders Romans group now?
Older than that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've probably got anywhere between 65 and 24 or something.
Yeah.
If I had to put I don't know, I've never researched it. I would say probably on average mid to late 30s.
Yeah. And certainly one of the things which I've reflected on, in my own sort of journey, and I ask a lot of people when they first became a branch manager, when they come and have a conversation with me, is that I think that now the average age is older than it was when we started. And I don't have any sort of evidence to back that up, but I don't feel like people get the same level of opportunities as early potentially across the industry, and that now if someone was in their late 20s, we probably think of them as quite young. What do you think?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I'm a bit older than you, so it depends what sort of lens you're looking through. I mean, I think we are we're kind of we're opportunity driven. We're meritocracy. We've just put a manager into one of our offices in Romans at the age of 24. Yeah, got the potential, got the energy, got the drive, got the personality, and then we've got other people, kind of in their 60s who've got the similar drive and energy. So I think it's probably not age related. It's sort of mindset. Yeah. I look at so much at passion. It's one of our core values as a business. And if you've got the passion, you're going to do well in this business. If you haven't got that passion, you're probably in the wrong business, because it's not something you can go out half-heartedly, I don't think. It's super competitive, as we all know. It is. So if you're not out there to win, Thomas Tuchel, jumping up and down on the touchline last night, which I thought was good to see, actually. Yeah. Then you're not going to win through anyway, and that's what got in my blood, I guess. I mean, Mike Robson then became the CEO at Andrews. He's retired now, but he was my kind of mentor and inspiration, if that sounds a bit corny, but it was. So what was going to be a few months part-time or temporary job, I'll go into a estate agency while I look at what else I want to do because I needed to earn some money. Became my career, and we did a fantastic session with a guy called Adrian Webster, Polar Bear Pirates fame, if you want to look at the books. And we had a session about 5 or 6 years ago where we had sort of 350 people in the room, and he said to everybody in the room, stand up if you're doing what you thought you would do when you left college, university or school. And nobody stood up. So I don't think anybody leaves school necessarily and goes, right, I'm going to be an estate agent. That's what I'm sure there are, but there weren't many. So you never know quite what your journey you're going to go on, I don't think.
Well, as evidenced by your temporary job, I think.
40 years later.
Yeah. And again, I got a temporary job over the summer, and again, ended up working my way through the Keith Pattinson's business.
All right.
Yeah, back up in the
Now
northeast.
look at you now.
And well, there you go.
Exactly.
Indeed, yeah, it's a great place. Okay, great. So it feels like you've described, that you aspire to have a meritocracy where
Yes.
it's driven by values rather
Correct.
than necessarily time served. And
Absolutely.
I think that will obviously explain a lot of the growth that you've experienced in the Leaders Romans group. The other bit you mentioned in your synopsis of your career was this idea about things becoming too corporate.
Right.
And I'm always interested in that phrase because sometimes I don't think people are able to articulate exactly what that means. So when you say it became too corporate, I think it was in the context of the Halifax.
Yeah, and I think Spice of Heart went
Spice of
that
Heart.
way
Okay,
as well.
great.
Actually, I mean, they may not be that in that space now, but they certainly were headed that way when I was there.
And so what does that actually mean?
Well, I mean, first of all, corporate isn't all bad. There are a lot of strengths for being a larger business, and we play to those strengths as well. So there are things that are kind of non-negotiable, if you like, within our business. So whether it's our IT infrastructure, it's our compliance, the way we operate, values that we've talked about, the support from HR, cyber, all those kinds of stuff are kind of corporate in a way. And if you go to our head office, it's got 250 people in, all busy beavering away. So we are corporate, if you like.
Yeah.
So, I think we can play to the strengths of that. But I think where we are in a state agency is, in my view at least, and this is a conversation I had with Paul Weller all those years ago, is we've got to stick to that local entrepreneurial approach to business. So estate agency in Gibbs Gillespie Gerald's Cross is very different to estate agency in Leaders Mansfield.
Yeah.
They're still buying and selling houses, incidentally, but it's a completely different world, if you like. So what we've done through organic growth, but more particularly around acquisition, is stay true to those values within that acquisition. So unless it's a really small acquisition, maybe one or two branches, we've done our best to retain those brands because that's a big part of what you're buying. And they have a local heritage, a local reputation, a local legacy, kiss the badge, England style. So if you go into a Gibbs Gillespie office or a Romans office or even an Acorn office or whatever, they're very much aware they're part of Leaders Romans Group or LRG as we are now, but they work for that brand. And I think what we've tried to do is make sure there's not a one size fits all policy. There's no 3-line whip on fees.
Yeah.
There's flexibility where it's needed, and I think we've got to make that decision, put the decision making to where the knowledge is, which is primarily locally, with some guidance from the sort of centre, if you like, from the mothership. So if we can get that local entrepreneurial approach, fighting that other agent in the town or online or wherever they are, backed up by a strong sort of central support system with an umbilical cord, if you like, to the mothership, then I think we've got the opportunity to get the best of both. So that's my kind of philosophy around corporate versus independent discussion.
If I could summarise back what I've heard, what you're saying is that corporate is about centralisation. It's about centralised decision making and not allowing individual entrepreneurial decision making at local level. Is that fair?
I think that's right. But if you're thinking the Wild West and everyone going off in different directions, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's everyone understanding that the sort of philosophy, the culture, and the intent, if you like, of what we're trying to do. So I think if I think about the regional director group that are under my wing, they have we have a call once a week, look at the results, look at the performance, look at the issues, etc., etc. But the ownership of that business, wherever it is in the country, sits with them.
Yeah.
And I think they make decisions knowing what the intent is, if that makes sense. So they're on the right lines immediately because they know what we're trying to achieve.
Yes.
So if somebody comes to me with an issue or a problem or whatever, I always say that you've had more time to think about it than I have. What do you think we should do? And 9 times out of 10, they've got the answers already.
Yes.
And therefore it's just a sort of touch-based discussion. Maybe we could tweak that slightly, and off they go again. So there's a lot talked about empowerment and ownership, etc. And these guys don't own the business, so let's make that very clear. We do have a share scheme, but they run it as close as they can to their own business, and I think that's the art. If you can crack that and get the good people around you, makes my life easier.
It certainly does. Yeah.
And we've got a fantastic team, both on the sales side and on the letting side.
And so, what do you think is the key layer of decision making? Then, is it, you mentioned regional directors? Do you think it's branch managers? Is it regional directors? Like, what's the layer where you want to have that sort of decision making anchored?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think branch really. I mean, they're the ones that are out battling the other agents, trying to win those valuations, trying to win those instructions, doing the deals, getting the boards up, etc., etc. So I think if you're empowering and motivating that branch manager, you've got a good branch manager, you've got a good branch.
Yeah, agreed.
9 times out of 10, because they build the team themselves and they've got a great local culture as well. I think the regionals are important because they know those areas and they've got that local knowledge, so they can help steer the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've got a great phrase, I think. Anyway, the price of independence is performance.
Yes, it's a good phrase.
So if you want to have that independence and a nice long reign to run your business, then perform.
Yeah.
Because we're a results-based business. You could have a manager who's super motivated, gets in early, trains hard, if you like, but a bit like a football manager. If they don't win any matches, unfortunately, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
So whilst people are hitting their numbers, if you like, and doing the things that we want them to do in the best way they can, then they've got a lot of headroom.
Yeah.
Where they are underperforming for whatever reason, then we kind of reserve the right to drill in at that point and have lift up a few stones and find out what's going on. So that's primarily where the regionals sort of sit and jump in.
And it would be fair to say that a branch can be performing relatively well financially.
Yes.
But can also have delivery problems in terms of customer experience. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is very fair.
And how do you square that circle?
Well, we want both.
Yes.
In simple terms.
Yep.
So it is a results-based business. We're owned by private equity. If we're ahead of our budget and doing well, we're very popular. If we're behind our budget and not doing so well, we're probably a bit less popular. At the moment, we're in a good place with all of that, which is great. But I think we also need to make sure that people are operating in a culture and an ethical way. And we have very little in the way of sort of rogue traders, if you like. Not because we run it with a micromanagement. It's because, as I say, they know the intent. They're part of the team, if you like, and they understand what we're trying to achieve. So, it's culture. Our core values are respect for each other, our suppliers, and everyone we deal with. Integrity. So be honest. If you had a bad week, you've had a bad week.
Yeah.
Let's pick up the pieces and decide what we're going to do about it, rather than hide it or something. Passion, which I've talked about already. Because you're just not going to win in this business unless you've got that sort of pumping through your veins.
Yeah.
And our last core value is bravery. So we want people to be brave. Go out there, be bold about what you do. You're not going to win every instruction. Things will go wrong occasionally, but be bold and brave about what you're trying to do in your marketplace. And you're going to succeed more often than you don't. So
that's really
like I'm sort of got the
I love
the
it.
LRG core values that tattooed on me.
Well, I think if you're going to run any business at scale, there have to be guiding principles, because you can't be across all of the detail. And that's really what we've been talking about, is that you describe the intent, you hire for values, you fire for values, you get those people who are aligned, and then you can leave them alone to a certain extent, as long as they're freedom within a framework is another phrase that I've heard described as.
That sums it up. And we've got also on the back of that a people culture. I know that sounds cliched as well. Peter Kavanagh, who was the CEO, he's now the chairman of LRG, has that pumping through his veins. So very rarely does he talk about the business in terms of profit and loss or whatever. Of course he's looking at that, as is Mike, our CEO, but they're also hugely interested in the people and what's going around all of that. And we will have in a business of our scale, nearly 4,000 staff, we're going to have one or two people go off piste occasionally.
Of course.
But it's very rare, and we've got very low attrition, particularly at that branch manager and middle and senior management levels. People come and enjoy it, and hopefully earn a decent living out of it as well. So we're not churning staff. And we acquired a business called Chancellors last year. very different culture, very high attrition. And we turned that round in 12 months, not because of anything particularly magical, although I think we can pull a few levers when we need to, but because we now respect people, they're treated properly, and they want to be there. And I think we all spend a long time at work. Well, I seem to. So if you're not enjoying it and having some fun during that sort of 9-hour day or whatever it is, then life is too bloody short to be doing it, really. And I think sort of weaving through all of that is not. It's not hours for hours' sake. We've got much more sort of work-life balance than we used to have.
Yeah.
It's actually job enthusiasm, not workaholic. I mean, that's kind of negative for me, but job enthusiasm is what I think I'm looking for. And even 40 years into this, I still look forward to Monday morning.
Yep, which is
It's
great.
sad, really.
No, I don't think it is. No, I think what's sad, and as someone who's done lots of valuations on lots of people's houses and talked to them about what they do, the number of people who hate what they do, when you meet them, it's an
Life
awful
is too
thing.
short.
It's an awful thing, and
I think that helps me back to where I started, because although I had a degree and whatever, I entered into a state agency as a temporary job, as we've just said, at the bottom. So I can go and talk to anyone in a branch or the manager or the regional and say, look, I've done that job.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to have no sales, 1 sale, 10 sales. I know what it's like to stand outside a property in the pouring rain and the people don't turn up and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's very very important in terms of kind of connection with the teams. So if you look at the estate agents that are running our business and lettings for that matter, they are all estate agents. We haven't flown them in from retail or banking.
Are you thinking of anyone in particular?
Not at all.
Good.
Not at all. So maybe. I mean, we've got some people that have come from other industries.
Sure.
So in terms of sort of head office functions and the way we're looking at our data and all of those kind of clever things. But actually, the people running our business primarily, almost without exception, have started, as I did and you did, and kind of tried to climb up that slippery pole or whatever it's called, ladder or something.
Exactly. And what's your philosophy about having multiple brands competing against each other in the same marketplace? So if you went to Countrywide, or Connells as it now is, and again I forget exactly what the stat is. I'm sure Chris Rossendale can get in touch with me to tell me, but in Milton Keynes, they had something like 7 brands on the high street, and they were all competing against each other. And that was a strategy which, in those early days, worked really, really well for them. What's your sort of perspective on this? Is it like one brand per location?
Well, no, it is. I mean, when we're looking at a potential acquisition, we're obviously looking at where dots on the map and, how many, where are we? How does that fit in with the sort of bigger picture, if you like? So although we've got 300 plus offices, as I've said, there aren't that many double ups. There are some. I think the one, I mean, I live in Surrey, and Woking, I think, is the only one where we've got 3.
Right. Okay.
So we've got Leaders, Sterling Ackwood and Chancellors all in the same line in Commercial Way in Woking.
Yeah.
But they're all doing different things in different parts of the market, so it makes more sense than you might think. But if you then look across the wider network, we've probably got 8 or 10 double ups.
Yeah.
Which isn't that many
It's not
when you
many,
think about it. And a lot of them are kind of in their towns and are sole representation in those towns. So where we do have double ups, they are run separately, because I don't think you can have a regional director that's trying. They'll have a favourite child, won't they?
Yes, they will.
If you're not careful. So we try and split that a little bit, but working collaboratively. So we're not trying to undermine the other brand or whatever. But there's a bit of guidance around all of that. But if you look at, I don't know, say Oxford, we've got in Headington, we've got Chancellors and we've got Scott Fraser. And they both operate very successfully. They're not eating each other's lunch at the moment. They probably nibble a bit here and there.
Sure.
But broadly speaking, there's enough to go round. It's a super competitive market, like most places. It's big enough for this town isn't big enough for the two of us, but that one is.
Great. Well, listen, that's incredibly interesting, and I think for a lot of companies, when they're thinking about acquiring or expanding, there are very few examples where they operate multi-brand strategies competing against each other. And it sounds like the LRG group is definitely sort of looking at trying to fill in the dots rather than doubling up and tripling up and quadrupling up.
That's right. I mean, London is congested.
Sure.
We've got a lot of brands in London, and some of them are about a mile and a half apart. So yeah, but that's the London market anyway.
It is, yeah.
So we've got a lot of dots within the M25. And we've got some acquisitions that are on the sort of in the pipeline at the moment.
Yeah.
One of them is in London.
Yeah.
Another one's in the south of England, and there's another one in the north of England. So there's plenty of towns we're not in.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part, I think.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely, especially with your private equity
Yes.
owners to satisfy, which I imagine they want growth. Is
They
that
like
fair?
EBITDA.
I'm sure they do. Okay, great. Well, listen, let's take a short break,
Lovely.
and we will come back. And there's a few things I want to dive into in terms of your attitude towards technology, and it's there's so much new stuff available. I'm interested to find out from you what you think works and what doesn't.
It was quick, it was responsive, it did the job on the tin.
Really simple, really straightforward.
Amazing, mind-blowing, to be honest with you.
The thing I like best about Digital Negotiator is its ability to provide time for the team to be able to focus on the things that are going to generate the business more income.
The fact that it's a text message sounds really simple, but emails just get lost now. Text messages seem to get answered really quickly.
It is going to be something that is very consistent, and I think that's one of the issues that we have within the industry is the consistency of those behaviours.
The fact that it can automate so many of the processes that are basic tasks that are still being undertaken, often by expensive frontline negotiators. It's going to free up so much more time for valuable people to do valuable jobs.
We're going to mine data with far more focus, far more diligently, and obviously the results will come from that.
I think as a business owner, you can relax that out of office hours, there is something else there capturing all those opportunities, and meaning when your team comes in the next day, they've got a degree of qualification, the diary filled, and other opportunities looked for.
The big key thing is a 65% outside of working hours and the response time thing. That's just magic. The thing I love about it most is it's so progressive. So it's not off the shelf when we've finished. It's like we're going to make it better and better and better with feedback.
It's going to make our out of hours really effective for clients. Digital Negotiator is definitely the way forward.
Get on board, enjoy the pie.
So one of the things which I believe really strongly is that every person has got superpowers, and they've got blind spots.
Right.
Yeah. And as I've become older, I've become more and more aware of my own in both of those. What do you think yours are?
Oh, crikey. Blind spots. Well, depending if you spoke to Mrs. Shaw or not.
Normally a good place to start.
Not always as attentive or listening as much as I could be. I'm probably a bit impatient. I've got a kind of almost an ADHD approach to life, and we're not doing stuff. Achievement addiction, she calls it.
Yeah.
I need to be doing stuff, and I'm like that at home, and I'm like that at work as well. And I think one of the things I try and do, whether it's a superpower or a blind spot or a weakness or a strength, I'm not quite sure, but we work at pace.
Yes.
There's a sense of urgency about what we do. We need to make decisions. We need to make decisions quickly.
Yeah.
We need to be agile in the housing market, as we all know. Things can change, sentiment can change very quickly. So I guess if it's a superpower or not, I think it's the ability to see what's coming down the track.
Yeah.
And change course quickly and bring a group of people with you on that journey.
Yes.
I mean, some of them, as I've said already, know the intent and they've already halfway solved it before I've spotted it properly.
Yeah.
But I think that's super important, superpower, if you like, to be agile, decision making quickly, get it more right than wrong.
Yep.
Not every decision I make is spot on. But as long as I get significantly more right than I get wrong, then we're headed in the right direction. So I think that's really the trick. And back to this sort of corporate approach. Which I keep coming back to a little bit, but we're very flat management structure. So the decisions are made, they're not layers, there's not bureaucracy, there's not red tape, there's not committees you have to refer to or whatever. So somebody will be in part of our business wanting to do something maybe put some extra resource into marketing or employ somebody else because the branch is going really well, etc., etc. There'll be a conversation with me, mostly, probably 98% of the time it'll sit on my desk. Does it make sense? Yes, it does. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
And I think whilst we've got that fast-moving decision-making, superpower or not, I think that puts us in a really strong place. Where you go into a sort of slower-paced business, sometimes by the decisions are made too slowly, and the opportunity may be gone, or you're behind the curve. So I'm not sure if that's answered your question.
Well, it has. It's answered it really well, and I probably didn't phrase it as well as I could have done, because really what I'm interested in is the characteristics. And my experience is that characteristics have an upside and a downside. So if you're a fast decision maker and you're constantly driving, then that can sometimes become quite fatiguing for other people to be around because you're just constantly pushing forward.
Yes.
And, there's actually a working document which people get issued with when they come to work with me, which is just about how to deal with me, basically, because of that pace, that intensity that I have as a person, which to me seems totally natural. That's just the way I operate, that's the way I work. But to other people around me, it can become too much, and so it's the thing which hopefully allows me to drive on and try new things and get stuff done. But then I have to sort of be aware that for other people, that's not always the way they want to work.
No, and I think that's fair. But I think the pace and the sort of decisiveness runs through the centre of it. And then with different individuals, you just handle it slightly differently. So some people are working at the same pace as I am, if not quicker.
Yeah.
And there are others that just take a bit more time. So they're with the program.
Yeah.
There isn't an issue. They're not sort of arrows aren't going in the other direction. But I think that's just managing of people really.
Absolutely.
And taking a bit more time, and some of them are reflectors.
Yeah.
So they'll go away, they'll think about it, come back 3 or 4 days later and go, what about this? Or what? And sometimes I need that.
Yeah.
we all need some checks and balances, don't we?
Absolutely.
And very often, we'll tweak the direction, or actually that's a better solution.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly not, and neither is any the board really across LRG. We're not the fountain of all knowledge. We are very much a sort of bottom up kind of approach as well, because that's far better to have 3,000 or 4,000 people with ideas and thoughts and thinking for themselves, rather than sort of half dozen people at the top of the company trying to do all the thinking for them. So no matter how clever you are, you're going to exhaust yourself and probably not make the right decisions either.
Yeah, because you're not connected, and that's the whole decentralization approach, that sort of anti-corporate approach that you've described, throughout the conversation today. So one of the things you mentioned is the ability to see things coming down the track.
Yes.
And there's a huge amount of talk in the industry, not least of which by people like me, about AI and these new tools which are emerging for which will change business. It's just a statement of fact. It's going to change business. So given you're a big organization with lots of people, established processes, decentralized approach to decision making, how do you then deal with something like these new tools? How do you choose which ones you experiment with and which ones you don't? Like, what's your decision making process on that?
Without going into too much detail, we're looking at AI. Of course we are. What we're trying to do though is look at a solution across our business, almost from sort of cradle to grave, rather than a lot of companies are looking at. So we're trying to go A to Z, if you like, and get a journey of where it can help us through process and efficiency, etc., rather than picking off K, J, and S, and having a go at those three.
Yeah. So
we probably are going to take a bit longer in some of these issues because we just want to get it sort of properly passed through. So I think there's obviously a change, happening faster than I think any of us could have anticipated, and it is around trying to sort of weld together process, efficiency, speed. Obviously, there's economy, with great people. So I think it isn't. We are still a people business.
Yes,
we are wedded to the high street. We're not about to go online or do hybrid stuff or whatever. We're going to stick to what we think we're good at, and we've had a look at the various models around sort of online approach or self-employed approach, etc., etc. And some people seem to be pulling it off quite well. Some of us not quite so well. But we're going to stick to what we know and what we think we can do best. So AI, lots of opportunities probably in process, in renewals, in property management, probably more in lettings and sales. I think there's some opportunity within sales, particularly around speed of transaction.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we are a people business. If you want to go and see a property, someone's got to show you round.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening, I think in the sort of private equity world is they're looking at where they want to invest, and some of these tech businesses are going to get swallowed by AI, at least to some extent. So there's a little bit of reticence from investors around some tech businesses, obviously not others. Elon Musk seems been quite well.
And Greenhouse OS, just for clarity.
They're exceptional, but they're then players and very good. But there are then businesses that will be benefits of AI, be beneficiaries of AI. So I think that makes us more interesting as an investment.
Yeah.
Because if we can strip, putting it bluntly, some costs out of our business, and speed up process and take some and grow profits and reinvest, then it becomes a sort of virtuous circle. If you like.
And so when you're thinking about residential sales, and I appreciate that lettings and property management, because it's so admin heavy, has got unbelievable potential for automation and AI. It really does. If you think about resi sales, which is predominantly a people-led business, where do you think automation does have a place and doesn't have a place?
Well, I mean, we again, sort of cradle to grave. We work with call center, etc. So there's a certain amount of automation and response from literally booking the valuation and getting your valuer through the door. A lot of that is then supported by marketing and some digital tech to give us some sort of USPs around all of that. But ultimately, it's people based.
Yeah.
And you can put somebody into a front door, but if they're not the right person, well trained, building rapport, showing some energy, showing some drive, showing some local knowledge, a lot of your investment's going to come to nothing because you're not going to convert that business. It's probably more in the back end when the sale's actually been agreed.
Yeah. Because
I think if estate agents are watching this, and I'm sure one or two will, the biggest sort of problem we have right now is the speed of transaction. And we're now at 5 months predominantly to get a sale through from sort of a memorandum of sale to exchange stroke completion. When I kind of started, it was less than 3 months. So you'd have a pipeline in January, which would convert pretty much by middle of March. And then you're on again. Now it's sort of, you're 20 weeks into it. So what we're doing as a business, I know the government are working a lot on the whole sort of process and digitalisation, etc. But we're trying to take some of our own steps. So we're working with a select panel of solicitors. We offer them volume. So they've invested into their tech, etc. as well. So what we do at the beginning is, for example, they will accept our anti-money laundering track. So it hasn't got to be done twice. We're through a link with a company called Catini. We're doing all the material information up front. So TA6, TA7 forms. I think the other one is TA12 or something.
What we would have called fixed and sales information.
Back in the day, So we're looking to do all of that. We're then getting the searches applied for as well. So we've now, with this tech and an integration back into Reapit, who's our CRM system, that is speeding the whole thing up so that we are able to... we've got a lot of examples now where contracts are going out on the day of sales memos arriving.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, you can only go as fast as the slowest link and all of that stuff, and it's a lot easier with freehold. Because we know the issues around leasehold and deeds of variation and all the stuff that goes with it. So we're working very well with these panel solicitors. They're now coming to a forum every couple of months to look at how they can work more closely. They're investing in their tech, customer apps, etc. And that frees up. We've got quite a large team of move managers, sales progressors, basically.
And is that centralised?
That is it's part of it isn't in our head office, but there's also some decentralisation and still some workers from home in that respect. So that allows them to really influence sales and solve problems and agree completion dates when people are arguing and that kind of stuff, rather than this sort of mindless chasing of solicitors who resent it anyway. So it just comes straight back into our CRM. with milestones, and the clients are updated at the same time.
Brilliant.
So we're working on that. It obviously won't be a silver bullet, but we are looking to speed up transaction time, less fall throughs, less unhappy customers, and getting to the money a bit quicker.
And do you have any data yet as to the impact of that? If you can share any of that,
we have.
Have you got evidence it's making it quicker?
Yeah, it is,
and it's reducing fall through rate.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, we've kind of got. I'd like to get to a situation. We're kind of nearly there already, where we offer you, Mr. Preston, if you're thinking of selling, a menu of choices. So first one on the list is we do unconditional auction.
Yeah.
So it's 28 days. You're going to have to be pretty sharp about your price, but if you want it shifted and your circumstances are in that situation, and the auction business is going from strength to strength, then we can do it in 28 days. We can offer modern method, which is a kind of version of that, but not quite so dramatic, which will take on average 56 to 60 days. Use our conveyancing process, where it's all interconnected, which is currently 82 days.
Yeah.
But we can't guarantee that, because if you get stuck in a chain, you're stuck in a
Yeah.
chain. Or the industry average, which is I think 123 days at the moment. So which of these four would you like to choose? Well, I don't fancy the 123 days much, and I'm not that mad on 28 days because I want to sell, but I'm not in a panic.
Yeah.
So we're kind of
That's
reducing the
interesting.
menu down a little bit to probably the two in the middle.
Yeah. So modern method or an
and I
assisted.
think we've branded it Bolt.
Yeah.
So the idea wasn't my idea, but I think it's quite good.
Yeah.
It's Bolt because we're bolting everything together, and there's a bit of Thunderbolt in the logo as well,
nice.
because we're trying to get speed across as well. So this launched literally in the last 4 or 5 months, and we're already seeing increasing amounts of data. The samples are getting bigger.
Great.
So we probably will take another look at it in another 3 months. I think probably end of Q3 we'll have enough data to really see what it's doing. But early signs are encouraging. It's also helping us get instructions, because people are going, well, okay, we'll have some of that then. So we're actually getting instructions, and estate agents across the country are always fighting for that USP, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Well, we're all on the portals. We
Yeah.
all do photography. We all do floor plans. Some of us do drones.
Yeah.
We've all got boards. We've all got people. We've got computers.
Yeah.
Where is that competitive advantage? And it's increasingly harder to pull off. So we're hopeful with this plan that we'll have something that is, a bit of a winner, and not that easy to replicate.
Absolutely. And I like it. And I guess there's going to be very few customers, aren't there, who's going to choose a sort of pure auction method. So you are just going to narrow that choice down to the middle. Listen, where do you sit on prospecting in terms of an activity for estate agents to do?
Exhausting.
From your point of view, trying to get people to do it? Or,
trying to get people to do it. I mean, obviously we prospect. I mean, that's part of what estate agents do, I guess. My view is slightly different in as much as that the world's changed a bit over the last 25, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And there is a place for it, and there are systems, and you've got Spectre and all these other systems that kind of help identify properties that haven't sold or what's coming on the market, or clever algorithms around, they're looking like they might be moving soon. All that stuff. So I think we can tap into some of that good stuff. What I'm really about, though, is trying to get called in first. So if you're looking to sell in any location, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 agents in. So if we're driving market share, we're driving our reputation, through SEO, Google, all the other clever things that support your brand. And you're in there first, then it's a question of getting the right person across the line and training them to be brilliant listers. And I think that's the trick. If you're in the first 2 or 3 agents, you're probably going to get invited into 70% of what's available anyway. If there's 12 agents in the town and you're 11th, it's a tougher gig. So then you are prospecting and trying to sort of trawl through stuff that you have to trawl through to get some sort of traction. So a lot of the marketing, a lot of the branding, a lot of the support, a lot of social media support is around, trying to get us at the party,
Yes.
rather than trying to get into the party after the door's been locked.
Yeah, interesting.
If that kind of
It makes perfect sense. And
odd
so,
analogy, but I know what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it feels like it's a marketing-led approach rather than necessarily a salesy, prospecting-y type approach. Is that fair in terms of
Yeah,
like where
I
you
think
put
it
the
is. But I mean,
emphasis?
there's still a place for back to that local entrepreneurial manager,
Yeah.
looking at what's available and super slow movers or whatever it
Sure.
might be, and thinking,
Yeah.
well, there's somebody in
Yeah.
distress who wants to sell.
Yeah.
They've got a board up.
Yeah.
Someone's saying, I want to sell, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So why not try and help them? I guess. So there's still plenty of scope for that, I think. But it's not we don't. We have business generation within our call center, but it's not data mining and ringing people that we spoke to 4 years ago and said, "Oh, would you thinking of moving?" This sort of stuff, because you're panning for gold.
Yeah.
So what we're moving our sort of outward bound sort of operation is around revenue generation,
Okay.
rather than business generation, if that makes sense.
So like ancillary services, those
Correct.
sorts of things. Yeah.
So
yeah.
we've quoted you for legal, but you didn't take it, or you've spoken to our mortgage side,
Sure.
or the surveying side, or whatever. It's to try and get that revenue generation with business that's in motion at the moment,
Yeah, absolutely. So,
rather than
yeah.
something might kick off in a year's time. I mean, there's plenty of scope for nurturing all of that.
Yeah.
Through HubSpot or email or
Yeah,
whatever
exactly,
it can be. But it's more kind of what can we do to maximise, I guess, case size almost here and now with, if we can get an estate agency fee and a solicitor fee and if you do the odd mortgage as well, all of that helps the transaction size, if you
Yeah.
like.
And so how big a sort of, an emphasis is there at LRG on financial services? Is that a big part of the business, or is it not? Or is it like if you went to Congles, for example, and
Yes.
asked them the same question, they'd say it's absolutely instrumental. It's a core part of our focus.
It is. It's important to us. It's not. We don't put the cart before the horse, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So if you have a great estate agency business with good board presence, good market share, well known in the town, doing good levels of business, and you've got some switched on people in those offices working with their mortgage broker, you'll do good mortgage business. So we don't have. Our mortgage arm is about 80 brokers, for 300 odd branches. So we're
like
not
1 in 4,
saturated. We are looking at some self-employed approach to the mortgage side, but it's not the other way around. I mean, it's beneficial. It's profit making. Back to this EBITDA number. It's doing well in terms of ROI.
Yeah.
And we will be growing it further, but it's not. Tom Davis, who runs it, won't thank me for this, but it's not the centre of our universe,
Yes.
if you like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it is an important planet.
Sure.
Surrounding the sun.
Yeah,
Put it like that.
Absolutely. So if it sort of goes lettings, sales, financial
Yes.
services in that order, is that right? Is that
Correct.
fair? Okay, all right.
Lettings is the sun.
Yes.
And I don't know where we are. We're probably sort of Jupiter or something.
Yes.
And,
Sort of
financial
cold.
services Pluto. Yeah.
Is it even a planet? Okay.
I don't know. Good point.
So, listen, last question for you. If I was to wave a magic wand and send you back to being an SME business owner where suddenly you've arrived and you're running a small independent with, say, 2 or 3 offices,
Yes.
and you were looking at the future with that vision down the road that you have, what are the things you'd be doing now as an SME business owner which you think would, enable them to enjoy more success going forward than maybe they've enjoyed previously?
Depends what their end game is, I guess. Could sell to us, I suppose. I think probably the key. There's lots of keys to this. One is building a lettings book. Mm-hmm. So if you look at our business, the lettings ATB, as we call it, management base is 90 odd thousand properties. That's the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah.
So that's the goose that lays the golden egg to an extent, and then the transactional business kind of works around it. So I think if you want to trying to build value in your business, and lots of people do this anyway, so it's hardly revolutionary, is build a strong lettings business, and I think make sure that you've got that covered off. You're then doing financial services. You're doing your financial. You're doing your conveyancing side. You need to have different income streams, new homes, etc. A lot of the strong SMEs do that already. And then I think it's really carving your market locally, as we've talked about quite a bit already. So, you know, it's a differentiation. It's that local sort of knowledge, which a lot of them have already.
Yeah.
Social media presence. And then I think probably in the same way as we have, it's the people.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter if you've got 3 branches or 300. You know, if you could have three branches and they're run by the wrong people, you know, you'll get run ragged.
Yes.
Trying to control it.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've got 300 and they're all brilliant, then you know you can spend a bit more time on the golf course, which I'm trying to, but you know, limited success. So I think it is people based, and I think it's just being in the community. What we try and do as well, again back to this sort of entrepreneurial bit, is you know we want to be seen as being insiders in the community, so insiders looking out, not like outsiders looking in. Now, the benefit and one of the strengths of the smaller and medium-sized estate agencies is that they already have that, and play that card very strongly, and it's probably their strongest card. Let's be honest, that and great social media presence and almost cult of personality.
Yes.
So I think you know that's their sort of secret weapon is the individual. We want the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember listing years ago, and I said, "Well, you know, we're getting all this, and this I was at Andrews. We'll do all this for you, and you get me."
Yes.
Probably why no one.
And it worked. Yeah.
Probably never got much on, but no, you kind of it's that ownership and that relationship piece, which is so important, I think.
And do you think that social media combined with that personal, like one single point of contact, you're getting me, is why EXP has done so unbelievably well?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. And, you know, I live in Cheltenham. We've got a couple of brands in Cheltenham, Peterball and Leaders, both doing well. But, you know, I was down there last weekend and, you know, EXP are everywhere.
Yeah.
No, that isn't true across the country.
Sure.
So, but we'd be daft not to see that model and think, you know, they've got it right.
Yeah.
Again, they're people orientated as well. So you've got a great EXP person, you're going to do extremely well. If you've got somebody who's less talented or motivated, then that's gonna have the same issues as we have. But
I think they've got
a nice combination.
They do, and I think if you think
credit
about
where it's due.
Yeah, exactly. And Adam's been on the podcast actually, and I've sort of had a.
Well, I
good
hope
chat
he's saying nice things about us.
It was all about LRG. It really was, the whole podcast.
It's a great model.
It's a great model,
and they probably cracked it better than anybody else.
They have, yeah. And I think there's a number of factors, not least of which Adam and you know the personal energy and the personal drive that he has to make that an unbelievable success. It's a huge factor in the success of the business. But I think they also have like a natural evolution that the crap ones die really quickly.
Darwinism going on.
Yeah, 100% is you know, if you're not any good, it's not like they hang around and pick up a basic salary. If they're not any good, they're gone.
Well, there are similar models that haven't flourished quite so well. Let's put it like that.
Absolutely. And so they have super agents who are amazing recruiters. There's also massive incentives in the scheme to therefore talk about how brilliant it is to attract other people into it. You know, and that again is it's a really good structural strength which they have.
Yeah, and I think there's, you know, they are a great business. They're a great model, and they've grown exponentially. So, absolutely hats off. But I think there's a big enough industry out there for different models to thrive.
Yes.
And I think, you know, we're seeing some pressure in the industry at the moment. You know, just anecdotally, I'm hearing, you know, offices closed here, something else has happened over there. You know, margins are tight.
Costs and fundamentally it's a cost-driven issue.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
That you know the experience of the SME business owner is high volatility in the market, so it goes up and it goes down really fast, which to a certain extent it always has, but it feels like it's happening more. We've got rising costs of minimum wage, which is putting pressure on the bottom end, the entry-level jobs.
Correct, which is not doing anyone any favours from what I can see.
Yeah, it's not doing, indeed. Higher taxation in the form of national insurance and all of those other costs, rising costs from portals and the like, and you mash all of that together and you've got businesses which need to innovate.
Absolutely.
And they need to evolve. And as you quite rightly pointed out, if they've got an incredibly robust lettings business, then that protects them to a large extent for the transaction.
A little bit, doesn't
it? 100%.
And I think the other thing that back to LRG, we've got a group of people that have been around for some time. So talking to Mike Cook, who's our CEO the other day, we when things happen, we've kind of dealt with something similar.
Absolutely.
Over so we've in the last few years with COVID and Brexit and Liz Truss budget, and then cost of living crisis and Ukraine, and now we've had Trump and all the rest of it. So we've kind of had a few tour of duties here. And okay, whilst every sort of dip in the market or something happening is slightly different or has a different kind of reason for it, there you almost get your toolkit out and go, well, what do we need to do this time?
100%.
With a bit of a local flavour or a more recent flavour with what's required. So we've kind of been to Afghanistan a few times.
Well, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Yeah, well, and, exactly.
And I think, if you've been through things like this, you say financial crisis and COVID and stuff, then, we've all got plenty of battle scars from that, about good decisions and bad decisions.
But the teams just need clarity around direction. And I'm a simple person, as you probably already gathered, but, if we give them clear direction of what we think we need to be doing and how we need to be doing it, and not too many mixed messages, they're back to this intent. They're with the programme. Clarity
of values, clarity of intent, decentralised control. Those are the big themes I've taken away from today. You've been incredibly generous with your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, so have I.
Hopefully it's made some sense.
Yeah, it's made perfect sense. Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Cheers.